Okay, welcome to day 3. So today we're going to do 3 different things. First, I'm going to show you how you can have events happen on a timer, because sometimes it's nice to have certain things happen periodically in the game. Then we're going to talk about how you can change your speed. We already know how to make a circle move to the left and the right and up and down, but we don't know how to make it change speed as the game is happening. We also don't know how to make it change direction, which is just another name for changing speed. Your speed is changing to be backwards. And then finally, we're going to have it bounce off things, so we'll have it bounce off the walls. You'll end by making gravity, because gravity is just another name for changing the Y speed. Next time, we'll start getting into the mouse and the keyboard and how to make it do things when you click and when you press buttons. Okay, so you should go ahead and create the following program. This is kind of a stripped-down version of what we had before. So I've got an ellipse that draws at x, y. Here are my variables x, y. We're starting at 300, 300, but right now there's no motion of any kind. Well, let's go ahead and add some motion. So we can have it go to the right by 10, and let's go ahead and add a screen wrap. So if x is greater than 600, then I'll set x to be 0. Otherwise, if x is less than 0, I'll set it to be 600. Okay, so let's make sure that works. Cool. So let's do something on a timer. For a timer, we need some notion of the passage of time. So I'm going to make an integer called time, which is just going to count how many times have we done the draw loop. So time is going to start out equaling 0. And then inside the draw loop, I'm going to say time plus plus, which is going to add 1 to time. So let's maybe make the background color change once every 30 frames. So first we've got to actually make the background color be a color. So let's make a new integer called background color. And I'm going to start the background color off being white. So it's going to be a mixture of 255, 255, and 255. And then if I want the background to use that color, I'll take that variable, and instead of saying background 220, I'm going to say background color, and it will use that color. Actually, just to prove it to you, let's start the background at red, which is going to look really different. So if I run it, you see the background is a beautiful red. So here's how we're going to use the timer. We're going to say if time equals 30, then we're going to do 2 things. We're going to reset the background color, and we also have to reset the timer if we want this to happen over again. So I'm going to set the time back to 0 here, so that way, when we come back to the top of draw, we're going to start counting from 0 again until we hit 30. Then we'll reset the background color and set time back to 0 to start counting up again from the beginning. Okay, so the big beginner mistake here is to try and use the background command again here. That's not what we want to do. We want to just keep one place where we draw the background, right here. If we want the background to change color, all we need to do is change the number that's inside this variable, and then just wait until the code comes back up to the top of draw, and then uses the new number inside this variable. So let's make it be a random color. So I'm going to make an int red that's going to be math.random times 256. So that's a random amount between 0 and 255. And then I'm going to do the same thing for an amount of green and the same thing for an amount of blue. Then I'm going to say background color equals, and I'm just going to set it to be a new mixture of my random amounts of red, green, and blue. So I'll use the color command to mix them together, and RGB are my 3 variables. So I've generated random numbers, I've mixed those numbers together to give me a new color, I save the color here. Nothing in here actually draws anything. I'm just changing the number that's inside this color variable, but then eventually the code will jump back to the top of draw and background will be painting with this new number inside the background color here. Okay, let's watch it happen. Cool. That's not distracting at all. I just thought I'd show you that now. Much later, when you know how to create hundreds and hundreds of moving objects in your game in a very easy way, you might want to do things on a timer like create enemies or have power-ups appear or disappear, things like that. What if we want to change the color every single time the ball goes off the screen and wraps around? What you could do, you should not, but what you could do is you'd think, okay, well maybe let's copy paste. So I know that this chunk of code changes the background color. So if I want to change the background color every single time the ball goes off the screen, all I have to do is do this code wherever the ball goes off the screen. So let's see. The ball goes off the screen here, so I could paste it here. Oops, hold on. Get the formatting right. Okay. The ball goes off the screen here to the left. The ball goes off the screen here on the bottom, and the ball goes off the screen here on the top. So that's a lot of copying and pasting. And you can see the program's getting rather long. Here, I'm going to delete this code here because I don't want to change the background color on the timer anymore. I just want to see it happen as it moves. So I just want to show you that this is going to work, but then I want to show you the right way to solve this problem. So here, yep, the background color is changing whenever the ball goes off the screen. Okay, the reason this is bad is because it's a lot of repeated code. It makes the code very difficult to look at and to read. So this is a key example where you would want to use a method. We have a basic action we want to do in a lot of different places. The basic action is we want to get a random color. So I'm going to cut this code, and then here at the very end of the program, I'm going to make a new method that returns an integer, and I'll call it getRandomColor. And I'll paste the code in there. And instead of setting the background color, instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to return, well, we could do this. We could say C for color. So now I'm saving my randomly mixed color into a variable C, and then I could return C. It's maybe a little bit silly to save this number into a variable if all we're going to do is return it immediately. So I could just say return color like this if I wanted to. Okay, the nice part about this is now I can use this command as just like it's built into Java. So instead of saying, instead of copying and pasting this code, which changes the background color, I could just say background color equals getRandomColor. And that's much shorter. And if I run it, you see it still works the same. The reason that I could have made this a void method, and I could have said background color equals color here. The reason I didn't do it this way is because the basic action is more flexible if it just gives me a random color. Because what if I want my ellipse to change color later on instead of the background? Now this method is useless because it only sets the background color. Whereas the way that I wrote it, if it returns the color, if I want to change the ellipse color, it's just a very small change to set this to be an ellipse color rather than the background color, and now it's doing something totally different.